Yeah. So we're going to be there for a week. We got our own Airbnb house and, rented the car already. So complete freedom because we've always, for the last 11 trips down there, we've stayed with her mom and we just wanted a little more freedom this time.
Oh, that's
And
really cool.
COVID.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a great
And welcome to
excuse.
Over 50 starting over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And I just read an article like yesterday. They were highlighting like, okay, so California is the big shutdown state, contrasted to Florida, which is wide open, criticized for that. And yet Florida is doing better in recovery from COVID than California. Why is that?
Yeah,
that's about all I read.
No, but it's something I've been wondering for months now because, I'm locked down over here and it's like, well, wait a second. I keep seeing like op-eds, articles of people where they go to Florida and they have the time of their life. It's like they've gone to another planet or something, and they come back and they've got like this glow.
Yeah,
like they've just come down from the mountain or something. Like,
yeah.
We went to a restaurant.
Right. We're going to be very careful about it, though. Lisa's already vaccinated, but it is pretty open. We're going to have moments in every day where we're going to forget about COVID, which is going to be so nice. I mean, I know that.
Oh, yeah.
Already.
That's great. That's
great. Lisa said yesterday, she goes, well, you better hope that all of that Arctic cold thing doesn't go over to Florida and we get there and it's 13 degrees.
Oh, my gosh. I hadn't even thought of that.
Good point. Yes.
Look at what's happening in Texas.
Here's what I don't understand. Now, I haven't done a deep dive on all that, but I am shocked about what's going on in the South there.
Me too.
So when we get it up here in Cleveland, it's called a polar vortex, and you watch it come right out of the north, and you go, well, that makes perfect sense. Well, where is that coming from down there? How is that happening?
No idea. I mean, God, I lived in Texas for a year, and I remember
more than that.
Just a year I lived there. 2 snowflakes fell out of the sky one day. It was
they shut everything down.
Oh my God! You should have seen. People ran outside to look at it. Oh, I've never seen snow. They never saw snow in their lives, and also they were so scared that nobody drove because there was a snowflake on the ground. And Rex sent me. He's down in San Antonio. He sent me a picture of his Chihuahua. And in the snow, and it was just surreal. Like this Chihuahua in the snow, and in San Antonio, like it was completely white. People there have never seen anything like that before.
That's wild. Now, see, I thought you were there more than a year because you started out in San Antonio, which you thought was like the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
So you got transferred to Austin, and you're like, whoa, this is way better.
Well, it was even faster than that. I was down in Texas for a year. I was in San Antonio for about 4 months, maybe, and then I got transferred to Austin, and then after like almost exactly a year, I got transferred to Colorado.
Oh, okay. So that's how that went. Yeah, it seemed like you were there a little longer than that. Austin is on fire, and I mean figuratively.
Yeah, they'd probably like it if there was some fire.
Right.
Reason.
Back to that. I can't believe like these poor people down there, millions without power for days now. They're not prepared for the cold.
No, not at all. They don't have winter coats down there. Like their winter coats are like a parka or something. They don't have like the kind of equipment that you would have in Ohio.
Sure.
And several of the people that I work with are out of Texas. So they actually have been coming on the conference calls and everything. They're all like bundled up. They haven't had power. I know the guy I report to, John, he was talking about the temperature in his house being 50 degrees and plummeting. I mean, 50 degrees in your house, that's pretty serious.
That's really cold, especially when you're not used to it.
Right. So I said, God, you guys don't even have fireplaces down there. And he showed me his fireplace on a video. And he's like, look, it's not designed to throw off heat. The heat's going right up the chimney. Right. We have to actually get in the fireplace to get any heat out of this.
And that's the way all the old ones were designed. Right. Now you can buy these contraptions. I've seen them years ago that you kind of load into the bottom. and the fire sets on top, and then it blows the hot air out from the bottom.
But of course, you have to be able to get that before the winter storm hits. Like they had no idea.
No, they still don't know they exist. Right.
No, and have you seen the lines that are outside of the store? It's as if suddenly turned into a third world country down
and
there.
It's below 20 degrees and standing.
And they're waiting outside, and not only. And there's no place to go and get warm. Like, it's not like, I guess you could get in your car.
Dude, I would be in my car driving north or wherever. I could be going to California and setting up a tent.
You
guys see an increase? I would imagine.
I don't. Yeah. Suddenly the flow is coming back this way.
Right.
Wait a second. Why were we going to Texas? But the crazy thing is seeing these big windmills that are just, I had no idea Texas was so reliant on green energy.
They're not that reliant. It's something like 5%, but they've been trying.
I don't understand how this happened. I think they don't understand how it happened.
No, they did. It's again, like everything today, it gets so political. You got to watch a whole bunch of different things, watch them argue about it and then figure it out. And
isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Yeah. So as I understand it, the, coal stuff, the fossil fuel run traditional stuff was not winterized properly because Texas, and that's the stuff that quit by and large working well along with windmills. But the windmills was only what do you want to say, the word for it, but adding to as much as they could with hopes to add more and more over the years. But they were not, in fact, I think there's lawsuits going on because they weren't properly winterized.
Well, it's funny because I had heard that of course they knew this was coming.
Their grid is antiquated. There's that.
Okay. I think I heard that. I hadn't heard the winterizing the coal or anything like that. I don't know anything about that, but I heard that before this cold set in, that the energy department in Texas had said, "Oh, we're ready for the cold." And
really?
Yeah, they weren't. Ouch. Apparently. How about it's just an interesting thing how that all happened so quickly and kind of scary too.
Scary
that something like that could happen, and we're just not ready for it.
Well, what's next? Who would predict this? So here we are in 2021. Things are just as weird as they were last year. It's only the second month of this year. God only knows what's next. What's coming in March?
Yeah, that's true.
Just wanted to mention.
I hate that. That's the thing. It's like, what's next?
Yeah, who would think that we would have to deal with this? So Rush Limbaugh passed away at 70.
Oh, I know. It's a sad. I was sad about that whole thing. Just, it's tragic. First off, 70 doesn't seem that old.
Not these days. No.
I was thinking about this, kind of going along with our, hey, if you buy a puppy, by the time that thing, dies, we'll be 70.
Right.
And it hit me again. Rush Limbaugh dies. I'm like, oh man, how old was he? He was 70. Gosh, well, it's going to be a long time before I'm set. Wait a second.
Yeah.
15 years, I'm 70. How did this happen? And I started remembering 15 years ago. And I'm like, okay.
That was yesterday.
That seemed like yesterday. So wow. That I was a little bit immobilized by that whole thing. But how quickly that happened. He just, one day he was talking, and then one day he made an announcement that he had cancer, terminal, and a few months later he's gone.
Yeah, from what I understood, it wasn't to us, it was quickly, but I understand he was battling lung cancer for a little while. I just read a bunch of headlines.
He remember at the State of the Union last year, the announcement had just come out that he had terminal cancer, and he got the Medal of Honor. And so almost exactly a year later, he passed away.
Yeah.
But he was broadcasting on an almost daily basis all the way up until he died.
Wow. Yeah.
My parents listened to him, and he doesn't come on out in California.
Oh, surprise.
But yeah, they listened to him, and he was active the entire time.
Wow, that's really impressive. I saw a video from CNN, something of a tribute to him, believe it or not, in his passing, and I thought they did a very good professional job. Yeah, they really.
So glad to hear that.
But I was never a fan. You know, I would listen to him once in a while, and I just thought he was too radical. Also too like emotional, kind of like
Yeah. I
yes.
listened to
I
him
don't
quite
like
a
that.
bit, actually. I liked
Yeah,
him.
so I didn't like that, but I respect that. Now, what they said about him, what I liked, is that even in an era where everything had gone digital, like he was the king in the heyday of the talk radio for conservatives, but he hung on mightily even as everything has gone digital and podcasts and all of this. He still was the big name in conservative talk radio. So they really talked about how he had a way of communicating to his audience.
He really did. And,
Yeah.
he was very colorful, as you say,
Mm.
online, but he was extremely educational as well. And, I've been in outside sales for all of my adult life, and so I've spent a lot of windshield time, and I'm an AM conservative radio listener. That's what I've always enjoyed that. And so I've traveled all over the country with Rush Limbaugh.
Oh,
And when I found out, I was in the middle of a call, actually, and I got the news on my phone that he passed away. I was on a video call, and I was visibly
mm,
upset on the call. I couldn't help it because it felt like he was a friend of mine. I
mm,
mean, he didn't know me, but I knew him, and
sure.
I felt like I could relate to him. I didn't agree with everything that he said, but I sure did learn a lot from the guy, and he just had a great way about him. And he definitely, his message gets mischaracterized, but he definitely had a message of hope.
Right, right. So rest in peace, Russia. I always get so moved by people that do work right up until the last day that they.
I know.
It shows their passion. These are people that have just found their avenue of passion, and it's all the meaning to them in their lives. I think that's tremendous.
Boy, I have goosebumps thinking about this because he said that all the way up until the end, how
Mm,
blessed he was that he got to do this.
yeah,
And when you hear somebody talk like that I get to do this, and
yeah.
they're referring to their work, that's a truly blessed person right there.
It's a lot of inspiration right
Let me
there.
ask you,
Mm.
do you feel like that about your work?
It's there's so many aspects to my work. There's a lot of aspects that I love, and there's a lot that are just a drag, like anything to do with paperwork and quotes and all of that stuff. I hate it. But that's the
I don't like
necessary
that either.
evil. Now, if I put together a bigger team, I'd still be stuck doing all the paperwork. I've been there. So there's a love and hate, but there are aspects to my job that I definitely went into the area that I felt most inclined for, as I really believe you did too.
Yeah.
Um, and
I
so
know you did.
yeah, but it's changing all the time so much
I
that it's
know.
kind of like there's always a period as things change and I'm doing new stuff again. It's always new tech and stuff like that where it's like, I gotta get out of this. I hate this. I'm gonna be a Walmart greeter because I'm tired of chasing the tech. But then when I get by that, it's like, okay, I got this mastered. Now I can enjoy using it to enhance giving the concepts, putting forward the concepts and different things like that. So this is interesting because this leads into what I wanted to talk about in our first segment of career self-improvement stuff. Now, last week I talked about business development as making some notes, and our friend Susan, a friend of mine in marketing, she watched it and she gave a lot of great feedback on that. She knows me so well. And she's like, well,
That's
here's,
important.
yeah. And she goes, well, here's what I got to say about what you said. She goes, but I think I want to hang on to that until next week
Oh,
because
okay.
I want to talk about joy. We were just talking about, well, how do you feel? Rush Limbaugh found so much joy in his career. We
Yeah.
were just talking about this, and this just happened. I got to share with you. So Wednesday morning, 3:30 in the morning, our house
Hmm.
alarm goes off.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's the battery's low. That's what
Oh,
happens when the battery's low. But needless to say,
Hummer.
my heart's jumping out of my chest. I'm wide awake. Like, how do you shut the phone?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I'm not going back to sleep. I
Oh,
normally get
bummer.
up about 5:30, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no way. That's just where it was. So I started listening to some meditation on joy,
Right. Huh.
and they talk about how this is the true key to the secret. I listen to a lot of different things too,
You
not
do.
just meditation, but kind of some newsy kind of stuff about it. And it is the key to, we talk about the secret
Right.
is in manifesting what you want. And we're so conditioned to think, I'll be happy when I get this job, or
Oh, that's dangerous.
I get this partner. I get all these things when I get this money.
Hmm.
Um, that's when I'll be happy and feel fulfilled and all of that. And the key to manifestation, and it's the hard part, is to be feeling like that before it arrives, that you feel like you're already wealthy. You feel that wholeness. That's what people say, that energy, the energy you give off manifests your reality. And so
This
it
is,
must follow.
oh my gosh, what great.
I got a
I
lot
could,
more.
well, I just, so
Go
just
ahead.
let me just throw in a comment.
Yes.
What you're describing is really in biblical terms is faith. I mean,
Yes.
you act as though you've already received what you can't even see. You've already got it, and then the feelings begin to manifest.
There's
Exactly the
not
same
not
thing.
just that, because I also I was a little out of it. I don't remember all the different things that I just went on a tear on this joy thing. And there was a biblical
What a
aspect
paradox.
that I listened to as well. And they were saying the same thing as you. It was really interesting, but also it's like, it's all tied into sacrifice and sharing and giving. When you are a place of service, you are going to feel more joy than otherwise. And we talk about that a lot, actually.
Mm.
So there is that aspect. And, I'll always say, boy, if you feel the need to seek out counseling because that's where you're at, that's where you're feeling, the first thing they're going to say, one of the first things they're going to say is do some volunteer work, help an old lady across the street, call someone that you can brighten up their day. It is that act of sharing and giving someone else joy brings you joy. So it is also linked to our daily work. When we feel fulfilled with what we're doing and that we're accomplishing something that is like a part of our dreams, and it's a big, think of you making a big sale with a client that you just respect and have been chasing for a long time. You've been there.
Oh yeah.
Uh, the feeling that is manifested there. It's so in the spirit of meditation, that is what they do. That's how to increase your joy. And by the way, I want to back up and say, in this day and time, I think that when I say I want to talk about joy, a lot of people groan, maybe roll their eyes. However, in this time, after a year of COVID and
Mm.
the news going off the rails and everybody getting sucked into the addictive hate and negativity, I think this is more important than ever, because when I'm doing this meditation and it's like, okay, you get quiet, you're listening to your breath, you're relaxing, and you get to that state, it's okay. Now think about a time when you felt absolute joy. And I think for a lot of us, what I'm saying is right now, you might all of a sudden have the realization it's been a while since you've really been feeling that kind of free and experiencing that kind of joy. But so start thinking about it, and sure, it might be tied to big accomplishments with your career. That's fantastic. It could be spending time with your loved one and in a state of play, which adults don't do enough, and that's true joy. And then so when you figure out what it is, maybe recent time or not so recent time where you just really love that feeling of joy that you had, think about it, relive it, get into that state again, really get back there and feel it. Now recognize what that feels like. Now think about your dreams and your goals, like the things that you really want, whether it's in the forefront of your mind or in the back of your mind. Now apply that same feeling of that joy. Stay in that state of joy and think about those goals and dreams. Apply that feeling. That's a secret of manifestation with the secret. So
Mm.
that's one of the tricks. Then one of the meditations I listened to. Then I went to the gym and I got on my hamster wheel and I pulled up another one on YouTube. And this one was interesting. And, as you get relaxed and feeling appreciate. Oh, and so gratitude and appreciation, they're so tightly linked. Joy,
Mm-hmm.
they're synonymous, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're in a state of joy, you're in a state of gratitude. You're like, life is great. This is awesome. I love this. So this one, to get into your state of joy, you're going to like this, is think about somebody that you can't help but smile when you think about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of people that came to my mind that made me feel like that. So it was hard to do I think about one or several? And I kind of, in my mind, kept going back and forth to several people. But I think I just wanted to throw that out because I think that's a very handy one. It doesn't even have to be your partner, your most beloved, because that comes with a lot of baggage because we see all sides of each other,
Yeah,
because your friends only get the best of you. And
well, that's true, right?
See ya. Yeah. So
until you move in together,
exactly.
It's like, holy cow, Barry, I didn't know you were like this.
Exactly. So it's a really good tool to help you get to that place of joy. And then when you get it and you recognize it and remember it again, seek out in that near future a time to have joy. For me, this Wednesday morning, I came back from the gym that morning and I was so excited to go into Lisa's office and start talking and telling her about this. And she's like, and now you get, I didn't tell you this, now you get to go out to JT's and dog sit all those dogs all day. And I'm like, and I can't wait. So I had my big day of joy that same day that I got woken up by the house alarm. I'm going to share some pictures with you and explain what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I just have a couple. I actually had some videos and stuff too, but I just didn't have time to load those all up. Do you see this?
I do. I'm freezing.
Right. It was 20 degrees, but it was perfectly still and sunny. It was actually very comfortable. It was tremendous, tremendous day. So my buddy JT, he's the guy lives out in nowhere, Ohio.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen this backyard before.
I bet you have. In the summer, we do we call it Seafood Fest out here and stuff. We do kayaking in the in the lake. He's got his own lake.
Yeah, I have seen this house. Yes.
And so this his two Goldens, the Golden in the background is a puppy, and this is Rosie, that's Bernie. And Goldens are so friendly. Like when I came in, I came in. Now Bernie never met me. She's a puppy. But Goldens, I don't care if you break into that house at 2:30 in the morning. They're like, oh, he's here to play with me. And so I got pummeled as soon as I came into the house, and they were happy. And so it was very energetic for the first half of the day. I did come there with my laptop to do work, and that took a little while. This is looking out in the opposite direction, and this is the lake back there where he has those bubblers, so you see the ice hasn't totally frozen over there, but you get an idea.
Yeah.
And only a few of these pictures. This is when we got back inside, and boy, it's there. If you can see way back in the background here, tiny, is Norman. Stormin' Norman. He's a little guy. And these two Goldens are just in my face all the time. And then there's Rick James, the cat, somewhere in here.
Rick James.
Yeah, there's Normie back there again. I don't think I have Rick James in the pictures. In the pictures that I posted here. This is Norman's head here. And then everybody did finally chill, and I was able to get some work done. But it was so fun. Just so different, and when you're a dog person like me.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
So needless to say, was very conscientious the whole time about this is my day of joy. I want to let that feeling manifest and take it in and remember it so I can use it in future meditations when I'm thinking about feeling joy. I just want to share that with people that you possibly have the opportunity in coming days or a week, make a day where you just, I need to feel some happiness that I want to take in, breathe in, take into my soul, remember. We don't remember 99% of our days, really. So make
Yeah.
a day that you're going to remember.
Yeah, Barry, I really like that. I think that what you just said and what you just taught us right there is so important in this day right now.
Right.
Gosh, I was just talking to somebody. I feel like it might have been you, but I don't think it was. But it was somebody that was talking about living in the moment, living in the
Yes.
now, and that only the only things that happen in the now. And so if we're sitting
Yes.
here worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, we're screwing up our now.
And
And
regretting what we did in the past.
yeah, that's the other thing too. And so like learning to live in the now is such an important thing. And when you add the joy piece and what you were just saying, it all starts to flow together. I wanted to make a comment about what you're saying. I really, the concepts you're bringing out here are just awesome.
Thank you.
I loved what you said about thinking about somebody that makes you smile. And what a powerful thing that is. I immediately got my grandmother in my mind. I used to call her Gungy. So nobody called her grandma. Everyone called her Gungy because it was, one of those typical, I couldn't say grandma, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she was the nicest person and just so sweet. And my mom's mom. And I just, as you were saying that, she came into my mind and I felt that like it felt almost like she was with me, what a great concept that is.
Hey,
I had one last thing. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I just wanted to finish. I didn't say that, but the second part of that particular meditation, when you concentrate on that person that makes you feel joy, makes you feel so good, makes you feel love, makes you smile, as you manifest that, you fully envelop yourself in it in this meditation. I'm on a treadmill at this time.
Yeah.
Then they say, okay, now imagine sharing that with the people that are close around you right now. Now you're in this sharing mode.
Oh, man,
now imagine sharing that with everyone in the world. And I do believe that when we do these things, that it does heighten the vibrational harmony of everything going on around us. It's a really good practice. So I'm at the gym.
I see that.
And now I get off the treadmill at this point, and I am walking around fully in this mode of just feeling like I'm emanating all this goodness off of me.
Well,
first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Well, that first thing in the morning too is I got two things in my head right now. Let me go to the one I was going to go to before, which is everything you're describing there that's related to joy is also related to the agape form of love. And that's
Please
not
explain.
a agape form. This is the giving kind of love, not the the inward kind of like things I need and stuff like that. It's all about somebody else and the sacrificing kind of love. And like you were saying is that you think about this person, but a big key is share it with the people around you, share it with the world. That's sharing love. That's what you're doing. You're taking the focus off of yourself and now you're putting it on somebody else. And this is a recurring theme in our show, right? Is when you take it off of you and put it on somebody else, that's actually where true joy is found. You almost can't have true happiness and joy until you take that focus off of you and give it to somebody else. It's a beautiful thing. It's
true. It's because our problem with our society is that it is a very self-centered society. It comes back to that's one of the dangers of capitalism and marketing is you need this, you need that, you need everything.
I agree.
And but the truth of it's just the opposite of what brings you happiness. Happiness comes in, we are not in a self-centered mode, we're in a togetherness mode, a we and a unity and a sharing. And so that's why we need these.
You know what, that was really well said, Barry. I want to go back to your capitalism thing because I do agree with what you said. I was having a conversation this week and I was saying, it doesn't matter which political or market system you have. I mean, we have the free market, there's capitalism, there's feudalism, there's communism. It does, the problem isn't the system itself. The problem is mankind. You know what I mean? Like, we know how to screw up everything, right?
That's a fact.
I read this book by Dick DeVos, the founder of Amway, and he wrote this book called Compassionate Capitalism.
I've heard of that.
It was oh my gosh, what a great book. I actually, you wouldn't believe it. This is actually a book where it talks about these people that team up together, and like one person comes in and helps another person to realize their dreams. And you read story after story about this, and that's true capitalism. You can actually become very wealthy by helping other people realize their dreams.
Sure.
And it's the same thing with the same concepts you're talking about. That's what brings total joy into your life. Mm-hmm. And these story after story are so heart-rending. I mean, I cried several times during that book. It's just. Sure. So when you add the right intentions to these things, like for instance, communism, the whole concept is almost heavenly.
It's seductive.
You add people to it, and now it's just totally. You got 100 million deaths last century from that thing, and it's not because of the system; it's because of what's on the inside of us. And
it allows us to corrupt it because it doesn't take into account that it only takes one greedy person to screw it up. Because
that's right.
It's based in supposedly altruism. Well, we're not. I mean, that's why capitalism works, because it does allow for the greed. Now, capitalism always has to be tempered with other methods, socialistic methods, which we got tons and tons of. But
do we?
But it works off the fact that we're inherent at an instinctual level, we're inherently greedy. So let's work off that and allow people to excel as much as they want, and in exchange for their hard work.
We have some differences in there. I don't, we inherently want to eat to survive too. So I mean, capitalism works that way as well. And so, I mean, there's good and bad with everything. I think we come to that conclusion, right? But so far, it seems like this one's the one that has caused the most success in the world so far, the system that we have.
It has,
But I don't think there's going to be a perfect one until people are perfect. And we're a long way off from that.
Yeah. I don't think we've seen our best form of government yet. And I don't know.
It could be. Could be.
I don't know where we're
going to take some really smart people to come up with something better.
Boy, I think about it all the time, and I've said before, I think it needs to be something dynamic. It's a system that changes. It's kind of like taking our term limits concept and our separation of the three branches of government and taking that another step.
Oh man, I totally agree with you. Taking another step. And I think that's actually called for at this time. I just want to go to something that the attorney last week, Vanderveen, was talking about, and it goes back to your point. And we all saw this. This was the CBS anchor after the impeachment was over, and she was interviewing Vanderveen, the lead attorney for Trump in the impeachment, and it was right after his acquittal he was interviewed. And oh boy, if you haven't seen this
I have a link, and I'll have it in the show notes.
Great. So you have to sign
up at over50startingover.com, by the way, and join our email list. You'll get those links right in your email box. Very convenient, because you do have to see this. Go ahead, Merle.
So the point that one of the things that he was saying, and this goes to the point that you were just making, Barry, is he was saying, the media is the bad guy. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the media on the right and the left, and I'm sick of the Republicans and Democrats. What we need to have, and he was going after the media, we need to have something right down the middle, something where everybody can see their ideas and in a place that makes sense. Let's report the news the way the news needs to be reported. And I just really see that in our government as well. It's either, and I've said this for a long time, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it just seems like you listen to one side and it's like way off. Then you're like, let me listen to the other side. It's way off too. It's like, well, where's the truth? It's just like we talked about at the beginning, is where do you find the truth? You got to look at like 20 news stories to try to figure out what really just happened right there, because nobody seems to be telling the truth.
Yeah, it's like I told you before. I don't know if I said it on air, but when the riots were supposedly going on in Portland and all those other places, I said to you, I feel like I got to drive there and launch a drone and take some video for myself. Not like anyone's going to believe what I said or even but you got to see for yourself what's happening, what's not happening, and all. It's ridiculous. I want to say about that video again, Michael Vanderveen. It is really worth taking a look at, because this guy, it's not he's not spouting off some script that he had in his head or anything else.
No,
he just comes off like an average everyday guy that is just fed up. And the anchor who's trying to adhere to her talking points, you could see behind her facade, she got eaten alive right there.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting about that too is that it looked to me like she was being told what to say through her earpiece.
Yes.
And so the cool part to me was he wasn't just responding to her. He was actually responding to CBS News and the people behind her that are telling her what to say and how they market CBS News. In a sense, he was really talking directly to the media and getting a response from them too, which was self-righteous and arrogant, really. And he made such a great point. I almost felt like that guy should be the president.
I know. I just liked it so much because of how authentic and I want
authentic. I like authenticity. And it just seems like we live in such a fake world today. And I just sometimes want to just yell out because it's so frustrating.
I'll just give CBS credit that they did air his whole rant. They didn't interrupt him or whatever, but how could they have though?
Yes. Well, there's two sides to that coin, because I thought about the same thing.
Yeah.
And I thought the reason they let it run so long was because she wanted to make her point. And remember, after she let him go for so long, she came back again and tried to, I'm simply just trying to get the information from the people. But she wasn't. She definitely spun the question in a way that was negative and incriminating.
What she was trying to do, and that's clearly the talking points, is trying to make light of the evidence that was tampered with. And he's like, well, how much tampering has to happen before it's illegal? Was it tampered with or not? It was tampered with.
It was such a great point. And it goes right to the core of our legal system, which is that you're innocent until you're proven guilty. And the evidence, and this is the interesting part, and I found I had to do a lot of research to figure out what happened last Saturday. I don't know about you.
No, I'm sick of it. No,
it was suddenly it was over. But
yeah, like
earlier in the day, I found out that this thing was going to get extended by several weeks. So this was Saturday morning. Saturday morning, I wake up, I see the news first, news flash on my phone. They have voted to bring in witnesses, and now the commentaries were, this is going to last now for several months. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is going to happen. I went on a motorcycle ride, and when I came back, the darn thing was all over. And I was like, wow. What happened? How did that happen? And it took me, then it was almost impossible to figure it out by just watching the news, because interestingly, one of the first channels I went to was Fox News. And this is right after the impeachment trial's over. I'm trying to find out what happened. And you know what they covered almost entirely was Governor Cuomo and the whole thing that's happening in New York. They hardly talked about this. This is the biggest story of the year, and they're not even talking about it.
Wow.
What the heck? So I had to research it. So here's what happened, is that they had a testimony that was Trump, actually, which seemed incriminating. He was having a conversation with somebody that's one of the House members overheard, and it sounded like Trump thought it was Antifa coming into the building. That was number one, that I thought was very interesting. Number two was he's having this conversation with Kevin. I can't remember his last name. He's the head Republican in the Senate, and he was saying, "Hey, Trump, you got to call off your guys during the middle of the siege." And Trump says, "These are Antifa guys." He goes, "No, they're Trump people, Trump supporters. Call this off." And he says, "Well, Kevin, I guess these people are more concerned about the election than you." Well, that's what somebody had overheard, and they wanted to bring that person up as a witness, and they wanted to pull up this head of the Senate on the Republican side as a witness, and that's what they voted on. Well, the Republicans, in the meantime, after they voted on it, said, "Okay, you want to call witnesses? The first witness we want to talk to is Nancy Pelosi." And the reason we want to talk to Nancy is because we believe she knew this was going to happen. She had been tipped off, and that she's the one in charge of the Capitol Police. And we want to know what she knew and when she knew it. And once that happened, the Democrats said, "Well, now that we have this testimony, we're just going to enter that into the record, and we don't need witnesses anymore." So they went to the vote right away. And I thought that was really interesting how that all played out. Now, Nancy Pelosi wants to do a 9/11 style investigation of what happened during the Capitol siege.
Sure.
But what's interesting about that is they just had a huge impeachment trial over basically what happened on the 6th. But why don't you need to do an investigation first? This is so backwards.
But they got what they wanted. They knew that they were not going to win that impeachment again. They knew it the first time too, but they're just going to continue to spin this for years to come, hoping for one, that mostly that Trump is forever tainted and won't be able to come back in 2024, I think. But also, I think that they love the division that they've helped create within the Republican Party, which I didn't see coming. But the Republican Party's now splintered in the last couple of months more than I ever would have thought, you know?
Yeah, it does seem like they are pretty much in a tailspin. So you think that the impeachment actually really boded well for the Democrats' strategy, even in the end?
They were spinning it the next day through all of the news as if it was a win. They all kept saying
saw that. I saw that.
So we actually really won, and then blah, 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 blah with their talking points. And yeah, I'll tell you, I think that the media complicit with the Democratic Party treats the American public like we're just stupid.
Well, they do. They do. I mean, we saw Joe Biden this week say that blacks and Hispanics and poor neighborhoods don't know how to use the internet. And
really,
and oh boy, right out of his mouth. And the interesting thing is that he was equating that to their poverty levels, but the fact is that there's more white people in poverty in the United States than blacks or Hispanics, and so
that's not the myth out there.
Yes, but the white poor people can get on the internet, but the blacks and Hispanics can't. Why? What would be the reason for that? And there's only one, and I don't like that.
I know. Hey, before I forget, I got to tell you, Lisa told me this morning, just before we got on, she goes, and if you talk about Andrew Cuomo, you better call him Andrew Cuomo. You guys always call him Mario. And I'm like, I laughed. I'm like, that's what we do. We mess up everyone's name.
Why have we been calling him Mario Cuomo?
Yeah. She goes,
Mario.
She goes, I'm on my bike. She goes, there's times I yell at the screen with you guys using the wrong name.
We should just say we're doing it on purpose to make sure you're listening, Lisa.
Right.
Okay. I have been calling him that. I thought that was his name up until this minute.
You're not. Are you serious? His father's legendary.
Was that Mario?
Yes, that was Mario.
Oh, that's why I'm calling him that.
Yes,
okay,
that is correct.
Gotcha. It's pretty wild what's happening with that whole thing.
Let's whatever you want to say on that. It's he got he got really caught. You know, a year ago at this time, he was like entering into like this national hero. Like they were erecting statues to that guy.
Right. No kidding. And I just remember the Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo
Oh,
interviews, and
cringe.
it was terrible. And now look at this whole thing. The worst part was when this whole thing started to come up, and it was just starting to get hot. I saw Andrew Cuomo in an interview saying, well, what does it matter if they died in a nursing home or if they died in a hospital? I mean, they died. People died. The disease, that's the enemy. And it's like, well, wait a second, Andrew. The fact, it's not a problem where they died. The problem is because you took people out of the hospital and you put 9,000 of them into the nursing homes where the most vulnerable people are, which ended up causing 15,000 deaths. It's not that where they died, it's the policy that you put together that caused them to die. So
he literally seems to me like he truly at the core of him has no remorse.
Well, it almost isn't that. There's a term for that. It's isn't it psychopath, or you have
sociopath? Yeah,
sociopath, where you have no feelings for other people's misery. And I mean, seriously. And what's even more interesting is I started to see statistics on the coverage of what's going on in New York, and I found out that there's another story that's out there, and it has to do with Ted Cruz.
Oh,
and
sure.
Ted Cruz is down in
he went to
Cancun. Yeah, he's down at Cancun with his daughter, and here they have this whole crisis happening in Texas, which is where he should be.
Yes,
by the way,
he should. Yes.
He should not have gone to Cancun. That was a dumb move right there. But
good move for anybody else.
Yeah. but he's supposed to be there. So the coverage was like on ABC News. That's what I saw, was 5 times more coverage of Ted Cruz and his vacation than of Andrew Cuomo and what's happening in New York. And to me, that just tells the whole story of what's happening with our news media today. Yes. It has been completely turned upside down. And we just go back to the beginning of what you said. Where do you go to get the truth anymore? You got to read like 10 magazines, 10 articles to figure out read between the lines. You got to read between the lines now.
You know, did you though? We're back to that Texas deep freeze and the fallout of that again. And I did take out a few sentences of this. Did you hear about the Colorado City of Texas Mayor Tim Boyd?
Oh, I did. Wasn't that horrible?
All right, I'm going to quote. I got the quote right here. Quote, Tim Boyd says, "No one owes you and your family anything. I'm sick and tired of people looking for a damn handout. These are people that are freezing to death right now. I mean, I cannot.
It's terrible. And what are they supposed to do? I mean,
what are they supposed
to do?
He said, okay, he goes on this tirade. He demanded that lazy, in quotes, residents find their own ways of procuring water and electricity. What are they going to do? Like start up a mill or something in a frozen river to generate some electricity?
It's so crazy. It's like,
well,
okay,
he's gone. Yeah,
he had to resign the next day. Boy, was I glad to hear that.
Oh,
what a terrible.
Yeah.
It sounded to me like here's a guy that this is a COVID fallout. He's been isolated. He's drunk with power. He's irrational. He's not thinking straight. I think maybe he lives alone. I don't know. I mean, can you imagine? This is something I thought about, is if you lived alone and now that you're going into COVID and you don't, I mean, Lisa's there with you, Anne Marie's here with me, but can you imagine like being isolated? Maybe this guy was alone this whole time and now he's just freaking crazy.
Yeah, boy, you made some good points there. Not to mention, as you said, probably a little bit of a power trip.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Andrew Cuomo. So it's so bad there that everyone's turned on him, including the governor.
The Democrats too.
Yeah. It is amazing to me the people that in New York, the people they vote into power. And as you said, they AOC for the second time. Like,
how? I don't get it. Didn't those people get screwed over on the Amazon deal? Did they forget about that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense how Nancy Pelosi keeps getting reelected too out here. You look at, I saw this video of last night of a guy, he took his camera and he just walked around San Francisco, and it just, like last week, it's so sad. I mean, the town is dead. There's nobody out there. It's a wreck. It's a wreck over there.
That's a shame. What a beautiful area.
It is. Shame. It really is. Hey, I wanted to bring up something I found over the week. This is kind of interesting. I'm just going to remember or read this, but it's back to that Capitol siege thing. I got a picture here. It's not a good picture, so I'm not going to share it, but it's of the Capitol after a bomb went off. Do you remember a bomb being set off in the Capitol back in 1983? Yeah, let me just read this. It says, "How soon we forget. Remember on November 7th, 1983, that the May 19th Communist Organization detonated a bomb in the Senate in an attempt to kill Republicans. Suzanne Rosenberg was arrested for this. She was pardoned by Clinton. She's now an administrator for Black Lives Matter and now does fundraising and administrative works for BLM. They bombed the Capitol." And it had to do, I did some research on this. It had to do with our invasion of Grenada and also what was happening in Lebanon at the time with Beirut, and our involvement in both of those countries. The Communist Party here in the United States, it's a communist organization, May 19th Communist Organization. They blew up, detonated a bomb. They had hidden it underneath of a chair and did pretty considerable damage. No one was injured or hurt, but fortunately they had just left the area and this bomb went off. But I just wanted to say that, we saw what happened on January 6th. It was terrible. But then there was some, back to the media reporting on it. They said this is the worst thing that's happened in the Capitol since the War of 1812, when the British burned the Capitol. Well, they seem to have forgotten that a lot of the same people that are in Congress today, like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Joe Biden, were actually in Congress at the time. And nobody's bringing this up.
Thank God AOC wasn't there. She would have claimed to have shrapnel in her thigh from it or something.
I love it. Okay, I got one more thing. Yeah. Have you seen Bill Gates and his thing about synthetic meat?
No. What? Tell me about this.
Okay, so he's saying that the richest countries in the world now need to move to 100% synthetic meat because of the flatulence from cows and how they're actually causing global warming. And he says that it's really the rich countries that need to do this, specifically America, because we're the only ones that really can afford to do this. The other poor countries can't. He also said that in order to cause this to happen, people, it's not going to taste as good as regular beef, at least at first. But in order to drive business away from beef and to the synthetic meat, we need to put some regulatory incentives there to drive demand, which means drive up the cost of beef so that you can only afford the synthetic, fake Soylent Green meat.
I'll have to look for that and see if I can find another side to that and see.
Isn't your mouth watering right now?
No.
Synthetic meat.
What I don't get,
synthetic meat.
It's only been about a year now since I've heard about the whole concept of cow farts. And
right. I didn't.
Well, what about
the problem? What about ours?
Yeah. What about every other organism on the planet?
I know, right?
The cows just must give off this really toxic methane gas or something.
I didn't even realize that cows were passing so much gas. I mean, geez, these
there's got to be more to that story. I'm gonna look for it because I got to tell you, just the surface of what I get, it seems completely ridiculous. There's got to be more to it, man.
I don't think there is, but
Bill Gates is not a stupid person.
Okay. But I think he knows a lot about computers, but I don't think he knows a lot about meat and beef and also the environment. But anyway, this whole thing about having to have this synthetic meat. Last night, Anne-Marie made me these burgers with this awesome beef. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what it was. But I hadn't had that's my favorite food. I love burgers, and
Yeah.
so I don't want anybody to take my burgers away. We go back to the joy thing we were talking about earlier.
Sure.
That's like when you said, imagine I thought of Gungy, but then I thought about
A big burger.
Mayor McCheese. And that guy makes me smile every time.
I understand. I do believe that we are moving, and I got you too. I can't imagine. Like, I know what a hypocrite I am that I need to go to the store and see my nice, freshly clean wrapped meat before I buy it. Like, the thought of me hunting and killing and skinning an animal is a nightmare that I would never be able to unsee.
No,
but it's a complete hypocrisy, because that's a natural way until we continue to evolve. I think we are evolving into vegetarians. I naturally speaking.
Really, I must be left behind.
Well, I feel the same way, but I do believe that just nature taking its course, that's where we would go to, just naturally.
Yeah. I don't see any evidence of that. I just think it's become a very popular thing, but I just don't see evidence of that. But it definitely, a lot more people are going that direction than I've ever seen before. Well, I can't imagine just living off of vegetables. That's a world.
I think you got to know what you're doing.
I don't want to be in that world.
You could easily have iron deficiencies and other things if you don't really know what you're doing. So there's that. Did you hear about what's going on with Facebook in Australia?
No, what's happening?
No, I'm surprised you haven't heard about this, because this only happened like yesterday, and I think it's going to blow up. So the Australian government is trying to force Facebook to pay for publishers. In other words, any news shared, they have to pay a royalty on. So they blocked all news in all of Australia and caused an upstir like you wouldn't believe. So now on Twitter is broken out into cancel your Facebook account. Cancel culture against Facebook in Australia right now.
Oh, interesting.
Dude, I think within the next day to a week, it's very possible that this could become an international event against Facebook.
Interesting.
That's just me talking.
We are seeing such interesting stuff around these big tech giants. I just read earlier today. Let's see. Let me just find this real quick, because it's along the same lines with Facebook, and it's saying that now I can't find it. That Facebook is going to begin to censor. Here it is. Facebook will soon censor your politically incorrect climate change opinions.
Whoa.
These guys are like into an exponential increase in just shutting down any thought that goes against the politically correct mainstream media. And this is now they're going against each other in Australia. This is pretty interesting.
It's getting interesting, because I think they're going to have a big fall from grace that they can't see coming. They think they're too powerful. It's arrogance.
I think you're right. When do the people finally wake up and say we've had enough? Because it doesn't seem like that's happened yet.
Because I think the majority of people are just watching reality TV and looking at their Facebook feed and are oblivious to most of this.
Maybe you're right. Hey, I just want to throw in one more thing. I read this very interesting article in the New York Times, of all places, today, and it has to do with the vaccination, vaccination alarmism. And what they're saying is that there's this big concern about people that don't want to get the vaccination, and they've pulled out some things, like, for instance, a third of the military refused the vaccination already. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. It says that the people that are refusing it the most in our society right now are Blacks and Hispanics. Those are the people that don't want it the most. And it has to do, they're saying that
distrust of the government. And they have a lot to be distrustful.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of just distrust of what's in there, and the messaging that's come out, especially recently, that says this isn't a get out of COVID free pass. and that you could still get COVID after you've taken it, and you could pass it to somebody else. And so people are like, well, why do
bother?
I want to put something inside of me that I don't know exactly what it is if that's not actually going to do any good? And so the polls out there, according to the New York Times, are that 50% of the people are saying they're not going to get the vaccination. That's coming from the New York Times. That's pretty interesting, I think.
It is. They're talking out of both sides of their mouths.
They are.
So, and that's when you create distrust. Myself, I'll get the vaccine as soon as I can. I already asked my doctor if I could get it because other people are declining it. He's like, you're so far down the list. No, you can't.
Yeah.
Then on the other hand, I feel like if a third of the military, which is it seems claimed that most people in the military lean more to the right and people more on the right. It's kind of a politicization thing, but they're young and strong. I don't care if they get the vaccine or not. If they get COVID, they're going to be fine and then immunized anyway. We're seem to be going down the right path. I mean, all of the stats that I look at all the time, COVID is really going way down. If it's a third of the population that gets offered the vaccine that actually takes it and enough of the other people get it, hopefully we hit that herd immunity regardless.
Yeah, maybe. I just wanted to point out in the military, right versus left, you might be right about that. But what I do know is that on the left of the political spectrum is where you typically find the most resistance to vaccinations in the first place.
Really?
Yes, and
if you talk
blacks and Hispanics, not one in blacks and Hispanics are typically on the left-hand side of the political spectrum, and they don't want it as well. So
what happened?
Anti-vaxxers are typically on the left of the political spectrum.
You're right. If we never heard of COVID, I would have said that too right away, especially Jenny McCarthy leading the charge there. But you know what happened is the vaccine came out under Trump. So there isn't about face overnight, now the vaccine.
Hey, did you hear another thing that happened was Joe Biden said this week that there wasn't even a vaccine before I got into office.
Oh, they're saying, and Kamala saying there was no operations put in place whatsoever. They'll just say whatever the hell they want.
But
then Trump would too. But I mean,
but here's the difference: the media characterized Joe Biden's comments as a verbal stumble, and now if it were Trump that said it, liar. It's just funny that it's so transparent how it's a double standard. I'm just hoping people realize that, hey, the press is not supposed to be friends with one party and not friends with the other party. They're not supposed to be friends with either party.
They're
supposed to be friends with us. That's really what is supposed to happen here.
So bad. So, hey, maybe we'll start to see a domino effect. Like, hopefully Facebook does get usurped in some way by competitors or something like that.
I'd love to see that.
I really would too. And, I feel like mainstream media has got it coming soon as well.
I hope so.
It's gone to a boiling point. But you know what I was thinking? It's kind of bleak. But when you were talking about people bombing the Capitol a few minutes ago, I was thinking, you know what? If somebody literally took out 90% of the politicians and we had to quickly go through some kind of emergency election, start all over again, the state of America today, we wouldn't do any better putting together all
terrible.
Yeah, it would be terrible. Yeah.
You're right. It just seems like we need somebody that can speak to that can listen to both sides of an argument and distill that down, sort of like what Vanderveen was saying, and distill that down to what makes sense. And it's not so much I'm beholden to these guys over here or I'm beholden to these guys over here, but just beholden to what makes common sense, like what's good and what's right. And I think part of the problem is that we can't really agree on what's good and what's right. And that's another problem.
It is. It's a huge problem. Want to start winding this up?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to mention that there is an awesome Sunday morning movie on Amazon Prime. And by the way, what I mean by that, I divide movies into two basic categories. Is it a Friday night movie or is it a Sunday morning movie? And the first time I said that, you're like, I know exactly what you mean. This is a great Sunday morning movie. It's a 2010 movie called It's Kind of a Funny Story. And it's about this stressed adolescent, 16-year-old Craig, played by some kid. His name's like Keir Gilchrist.
Mhm.
Never heard of him. He's terrific in this movie. He checks himself into a mental health clinic because this is like really timely. Even though it's 2010, boy, does this pertain to today and a young generation being really depressed, even feeling suicidal and stuff. He checks himself into a mental health clinic, but the youth wing is closed. So he's mandated for a minimum of a 5-day stay in the adult clinic, where he's kind of quickly befriended by Bobby, who's played by Zach Galifianakis. Do you know who that is? That dude with the beard from
Oh, that guy's hilarious.
he is
He's so weird.
he's so weird, but he knows who he is, and he
Yeah,
embraces his weirdness like nobody I've ever seen.
You're right.
Perfect in this movie. And so he becomes this kid's mentor and protege.
Wow.
Actually, it's so good. And
What's
so
the name again?
it's called It's Kind of a Funny Story.
Oh, I gotta see that.
You do. And he finds himself drawn to a fellow teen in there, played by Emma Roberts.
Uh-huh.
I never knew who she was. I've seen
I don't know
her
who she is.
name forever. You know what I mean? I mean, it seems like I've seen her name forever. Well, she's very young in this movie. It's 2010 now. It's 11 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
She's so good. Well, I look her up. She's the daughter of that's Julia Roberts' brother, Eric Roberts,
Oh,
and his wife's an actress. So there's a whole nepotism thing going on there, which always
always
makes
in Hollywood.
yeah, it makes me, well, listen to this. So a little love triangle going on here because Zoe Kravitz, daughter of Lenny Kravitz, and what's the Cosby girls?
Oh yeah, Lisa Bonet.
Yeah, isn't it their kid? I think
Think so.
But the
I'm not
nepotism
sure.
thing again. But I gotta tell you, she plays Craig's crush, like his idealized old friend from ever and ever that he's always had this crush on. So there's nepotism going on there. But then so I hate that thing. That always kind of makes me a little cringy. But I gotta tell you, those two are both perfect in these roles.
Well, one thing about, I mean, we call it nepotism, but one thing is that these actors seem to have, the acting gene or something. I mean, there is something to that. Look at, I mean, so many families that have been in this for so long. It's kind of interesting how,
and you kind of
works.
grow up in the Hollywood atmosphere. It's just it's second nature, I guess. But my point is that when you're a really good actor and you're channeling your other people's behavior, that I would think that growing up in that, you'd be seeing such fake stuff all the time that to play an average everyday teenager would be nearly impossible. They're fantastic.
I think it's very, I mean, you see what happens to a lot of these child actors. I think it would be very difficult to have any kind of normalcy and grow up in that environment.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw a great movie just the other day. It's called Driveways, and it's got Brian Dennehy in it.
Okay. How old is this?
This is 2020. So, Brian Dennehy, this had to have been his last movie.
I thought he passed away a couple of years ago.
No, he just died. And he, it says 2020, so they may have filmed it in 2019, but he's an old man in this movie, obviously. Yeah. And these people move in next door and they share a driveway. And so they're an Asian mom and son, and there's this kind of separation with the driveway and everything. And the kid wants to talk to this old man. Anyhow, long story short, this is a tremendous story of love And there were also very many nostalgic moments because it seemed like this neighborhood and where they lived, it reminded me so much of just how I grew up and just how, you remember, we used to play outside and
Oh,
we'd be in the
yeah.
street until the sun went down and all that kind of stuff. That was all happening in this movie. Anyhow, 2020 movie called Driveway with Ryan Dennehy. Highly recommended. It's a great feel-good movie. I think this is a what do you call it? Friday night movie or a Sunday morning?
Yeah. Which is
This would be a Sunday morning movie.
I got you.
Yep.
And what did you see it on?
I saw it on let's see, it was on cable, so I think it was like HBO or something like that.
Okay, I don't have that.
Again, Driveways. I'm sure. I don't think it was an HBO special or anything. It's called Driveways.
You might be able to get it for $3.99 on Amazon or something.
Yeah. But just a nice, feel good kind of movie. Yeah, and I think it's good to be able to have, when every time I'm like, well, I would like to watch a good movie, and I could never think of one. And so I think hopefully this is helpful to the people watching.
And I'm going to put these in the notes as well as awesome Sunday morning movies. I think we got a new gig here.
Yeah.
And I think these are really good recommendations.
Hey, Barry, remember how we used to make fun of Siskel and Ebert?
Yeah, we're not going to talk about
that. We were kind of doing what they do, but it's funny.
Yeah. We had some pretty rude stuff.
Yeah. We don't have to go any further. It's just funny.
Yeah, but they were big. They were huge.
They really were. They were pretty awesome, actually. But
they were awesome.
The
problem with critics. Yeah, for sure. The problem with critics today, like I like to look at Rotten Tomatoes because it's a mega what do you call that, not algorithm, but a mega critic site.
Yeah,
so you get a flavor of all of this and an average between them. But today I tell you, Merle, over the slow degradation over the last 5 years, because you see that they all have to do the woke thing now. So depending on the subject matter and stars of the movie, they got to do virtue signaling points. And so in my mind, I can imagine doing a site that is a filter for Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, okay, well, this story is about this.
That's actually a good idea.
Yeah. Take 20% and swap it the other way to account for the wokeness. Because think about what it'd be like to be a critic in Hollywood and you didn't follow the woke culture. You'd be
out immediately, right? Yeah,
right. So it negates their own usefulness.
Yeah. You're right about that. Wow. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay. On that note, I think
good points. Yeah.
Better get going for this week, but can't wait to see you. Because I'm going on vacation. We're going to do it Thursday. I hope to get it out on Thursday of next week. So.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Love you guys. Go to 50startingover.com, sign up there and give us a like and a share and stuff like that on YouTube. All right, Merle.
Hey,
love you, bro.
You too, man.